Good morning. Welcome to a Red Tire group. Hope everybody's well this morning. There's an interesting question here about compassion. Somebody asks Rinpoche, is mercy killing a compassionate act? If a being is suffering and has no hope of relief, wouldn't killing that being be the kindest thing to do? This is a very, very common dilemma we face, especially with our pets, but also with euthanasia for elderly, for people that have cancer, terminal illnesses. It's become a legal question in our society. So Rinpoche answers, if you are a bodhisattva with great realization, in some cases it might be all right for you to kill mercifully. There is a story about Machig Labdron, a remarkable female practitioner who lived in the 11th century. And she was marked at birth with the third eye of wisdom on her forehead. She always taught the importance of total selflessness. A student of hers one day came upon a dying horse, suffering terribly on the side of the road. The animal could not stand up, and crows were eating it alive. The student ran to Machig Labdron and asked, wouldn't it be more compassionate to kill this horse and end its suffering? She replied, kill only when you can see a being's karma and can be certain that you are bringing his suffering to an end. This horse is on his way to the hell realms. These few moments of pain are purifying karma that would otherwise lead to far greater misery. Before you take the life of any being, you need to be sure that where he is going is better than where he is. This is really, really a difficult topic, because when we see our pets specifically suffering, we feel that it's more compassionate we feel that it's more compassionate to take them out of their suffering. I need to let Shiva bark for a minute here. We feel that it's more compassionate to put them to sleep and take them out of their suffering, but there are a couple of factors we need to take into consideration. One of them is, how do we really know if that being wants to die? Especially in the case of animals that can't communicate their wishes. We all feel that our life is very precious to us. I'm seeing it with my elderly parents and Lama Yeshe's elderly parents. When you're 85 or 90, you cling to life just as preciously as when you're 45 or 35. Just because we're older or feeble doesn't mean that we are letting go of life in some cases. So in the case of a sick or dying animal or an injured animal, we can't know where they are psychologically, emotionally, mentally in relation to letting go of their life. They possibly are still clinging to every moment of life that they have left. So we don't really have the right to take that from them. Also, in many cases that I see, people use the excuse of, I want to put my pet out of its suffering, when in fact, it looks to me like they want to relieve themselves of their own suffering. It's hard for them to see the animal suffering. It's hard for them to pay the medical bills, which I understand. I understand all of those things. But to say that your only motivation is to put the animal out of its suffering sometimes is not the full story. Sometimes we're more interested in ending our own suffering, our own anguish. So it's a very, very difficult area. It's a gray area. I myself, when people come and ask me if it's okay to put their animals down, I tell them in most cases, Rinpoche discouraged people from doing that, but everybody is an adult. They can make their own choices. Whatever you do, make sure that you accompany it with practice. If you do make the choice to euthanize an animal, you need to do practice for that animal. You need to do practice of purification if you've created any non-virtue through that act. But in general, in most cases, it's best to accompany that animal until the end. That can be a very rewarding process. We've had many dogs and cats die in our hands, in our custody, and taking an animal up to that point that you can be with them the whole time is a great spiritual practice for us. Some of the strongest practice that I've ever done in my life has been when I've lost a pet. I often say to myself, if I could practice every day with the same intensity and compassion that I practice at that moment when I've lost a beloved pet, perhaps I could attain enlightenment much more swiftly, or perhaps I could benefit more beings with that intensity level of practice. So there's that benefit as well. And also just the amazing experience of being a witness to another being making the transition from this life to the next experience is a very, very powerful, it's an honor to be involved in that moment of a being's life. Sometimes we're invited to pray for people that are dying as well. I feel incredibly honored to be in the presence of a human being that is at that moment in their life. It's an incredible blessing and an honor to be with a person at such a vulnerable and intimate and important moment. So we just have to try to do our best within our own capacity and within our own circumstances. But until we really have the wisdom mind to know what's actually the best, if we're in doubt, we should try to help that being up until the moment of its death to form the most natural way that's possible.